right, guys. Joe, Danny, thanks for being here. Before we start, do you mind introducing yourself and Danny both, and what do you guys do, what do you guys specialize in, and give a little bit of description of your company?
Sure, Sharif. Thanks for the opportunity. So I'm Joe Hendrickson. I'm the president and founder of JWHLLC, and with me is Dan Hendrickson, my partner with the firm. We are a niche consulting organization. We primarily do implementation-related services for public sector, higher education, and healthcare customers. That's kind of our forte. That's our niche. We probably, as a firm, and the leadership in the firm has done more than 100 implementations of the leading products out in the marketplace today, including the brand new ones that are multi-tenant. We're in the process of doing a few implementations right now. So that's kind of our specialty and what we do.
I'm Dan Hendrickson. I've started working with Joe at JWHLLC back when it started, when we founded the company together. Same kind of stuff that we do together: ERP, BI, software selection, implementation, upgrade projects. So all around ERP consulting company. So
that's one other thing, Joe. Obviously, we have done over half a dozen projects together in the past decade, and I've seen that your company and both of you are excellent at finding this kind of project. I've seen you being selected to lead this type of software assessment and selections projects multiple times. From my experience of coming out from a big firm to starting my own organization, I've seen some challenges. What was your transition like?
Yeah, there was the same type of challenges you experienced and you've experienced as we experienced, and we still experience it. But, I think the key thing that's a little bit different that's helped us along the way is really because of the extensive experience that we have niche in these industries and with the leading products out there. I've been fortunate enough, and our firm has been fortunate enough to have led some large-scale programs and projects. And what really differentiates us is that expertise, that experience, those credentials, but most importantly, the people that we have in our network, like yourself, Sharif. We have over 1,000 people in our network that we tap into for these types of projects. And so that in conjunction with the methodologies that we employ, I basically have crafted and created over the course of my career, really provide us with a unique value add to our customers, and at a price point that's much more cost effective than some of the larger firms. That's not to say that we don't have our challenges when we get into situations where we're competing against those firms. If our clients, have a tendency to lean towards a large firm, nothing that I can do or say can really help with that. But if they're open to, and what really differentiates us is the people that we have in our network that have the 10, 15, 20 years experience that they can't really get from those large organizations. Yeah. We have that expertise and we bring that to the table, and with the industry flavor to it, which helps us differentiate ourselves when we go to market. And that's really been our success so far.
You take a project that's complex and you put a strategy together. We always joke about your spreadsheet, right? The fact that you take a project and you build it out slowly, and then you find the right people and put them under those specific roles and have them lead those. So it's not just the capability of running a project, putting a strategy together, but you also know how to find those right resources, and you also trust them with their work.
Absolutely. And I think, a big piece of this, this compliment you're trying to give is that, like, being an emotionally intelligent person, right, and being able to build the right team with the right culture, right, and have that type of dynamic on each team that we've all worked with has been really huge to a team success. Every team I've worked on with us two together, it's always been a fluid, very open door policy project, and everyone gets along. And I think that's a huge benefit.
Every single team member I've seen, we all keep in touch, right? We all end up working in the same project. Joe always reaches out to the same people that he had worked with in multiple projects because he has built those trusts.
I've been leading people since I was 19 years old, Sharif, and in trying to get the best people out, get the best, and really leverage the people's skills and experiences and what they're good at. And I think people appreciate the fact, and I know I do, when someone asks me, well, what are you good at? What are you interested in? And then try to make that happen. When people have forged that way for me, it's been a much more valuable experience for me and a better experience overall. And I try to take that into everything that I do when I work on projects. So I listen to what people say, what their interests are, what their desires. I don't ever want to put people in a situation where they feel like they're not, they feel, at risk, or they don't feel like they may, fail. And, my goal is to help guide them along. And you get that with time. I mean, and because I've been doing this for, well over 30 years, I've got a lot of experience. But, early on in my career, when I worked for some of the larger firms, I was able and fortunate enough to be able to kind of build a practice from very early on in my career. And being able to do that and also establish what I feel is very important is a strong methodology and approach, so that everybody on our team is singing from the same song. Because if you don't do that, you look disjointed and people don't understand where you're at. So maybe that's an inherent skill that I have, is very analytical and thinking about what the end in mind is and doing everything that I do. But that significantly helps the team we put together. And so assessing what you need to do on a project or in a practice and making sure that the team members feel like they're a valuable member of putting it together is very important, because no one person, I don't care how good you are, is going to be able to successfully deliver some of these projects, especially if they're extremely messy. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've had the ability to lead, come in and basically and correct a lot of projects that were going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And in my role at some of these larger firms, my role is quality assurance, making sure that I minimize the risk going forward for those projects that I was brought in to, help clean up and get on the right track. And so, you learn a tremendous amount by, being, with your hands rolled up, your sleeves rolled up, and your hands dirty on these projects, to really learn different ways of doing things. But it all starts with the people. I need to make sure that the folks that are on the team really feel like they're a valuable contributor to the team, because I can't do it alone. I need to make sure that they understand what's required. They provide me input to help guide the train, but at the end of the day, they have to deliver, because I can't do it by myself.
Absolutely. And I think also, just to add to that, for our firm as well, that's something that our firms, as smaller firms, do. We look for the right resources in the right roles and the right teams, more so than just staffing some person who has the same skills and experiences for the role, but we want to also make sure that we have the right people in place to be a successful project.
Well, and I think as Dan pointed out as well, we don't just jump at a project, and that's, you learn that and you think, okay, well, I've got to do, I've got to make sure I feed the family by getting through and getting, working on everything. But we're very methodical in terms of how we decide to go after business as well, because we don't want to put our firm reputation as a niche firm at risk by just accepting any project. We want to make sure it's going to align with what our goals and our vision is for where we want to go and what we want to be successful in. So that may result in turning down opportunities, or getting to a point on a current opportunity and saying, you know what, it's been great, thank you very much. We've had a good time working good together successfully, but then moving on from that, because it's not a one size fits all. You've got to make sure that you've got, as a team, the right ability to deliver at a quality level. If you can't deliver at a quality level, you're not going to be selected over and over again. And that's what differentiates us. We always deliver on time, on budget, and with a high degree of quality, because we do these things. And we'd rather be more selective and maybe just wait a little longer for a project than just jumping at the next one that's available. We're very selective in who we partner with. And that's why we've enjoyed partnering with you, Sharif, because it is a two-way street. It's very open, what we share and what we're working on together. And we're not going to get into a situation where we're trying to compete against certain situations, or trying to, one each other on something that will take advantage of the situation. That doesn't build a trusting relationship. We've been very open, transparent, and honest together, working together. And that's the type of relationships I try to foster and build. And so there have been partners that I've had that come and gone over the years since I've been on my own, or even before that when I was working for some of these larger firms, when we've had to collaborate with other folks. And the moment that you jeopardize that trusted relationship, it's not a game worth playing anymore with those organizations. And it's never been anything but that. And we rely on each other for information and help. We don't all have all the answers. We need to, tap into the knowledge that everyone else gains throughout this business, so that we can, do the best job we can for our clients collectively. And we've had this great relationship together because of that, because we've been very transparent and open. And I can't say that for all the partners I've had, but the ones that I still have, and I continue to foster those relationships, those are the ones that have added the most value to our firm.
Migrating to cloud had been a big shift. Now everybody's sort of going through assessment of the environment. Clients were thinking about, whether to stay in an on-premise or move to a cloud environment, any sort of decision that people are trying to make. Do you have any tips or suggestions of what they can do? Is there other trends that you're seeing these days?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been through multiple technology evolutions, right? I started on working in the mainframe environment right out of my audit days, and saw that the shared services models back then, where you went to a provider and they provide you everything, but where the breakdown was that they never gave you access to their information, their data, and you always had to be connected through their terminals to that system. And then we went into the client server world, where now we can connect with any device to their servers and work through some of the things that we need to do. And if we're disconnected, we're still working. And then the evolution to the cloud, just the internet, and just being able to connect from any device anywhere. And now we kind of evolved back to where we're in a technology model where the vendors are going to be providing you not only the software and you get what you get, but they've given you a lot more capabilities around that software. And they're going to provide the infrastructure as well, which in the client server world or in the web world, when over the last 10, 15, 20 years, you've had to put up your own boxes or rely on a third party provider. Now the vendors are going to provide that for you, and they can do it much more effectively and cost efficiently than you can as an organization and your clients can. And so I think, when you look at situations, we look at the technology, go back to some of the roots that you have, because chances are they're going to show up again, but they're going to show up with a little bit different flair. The technologies now, which is something when you look at the cloud solutions that are out there right now, the leaders, they're giving you all the infrastructure. When they first came out, they said, you have to do it our way, and that's the only way. And we built in capabilities so that you can do that. But then, they told you if you needed to do something that was outside of what we provide, you have to do it yourself. Now, over the last year and a half, they built extension tools, just like the old web-based products that are hosted or on-premise type solutions. They had to build a tool set because they knew that they weren't going to be able to meet at the speed at which they need to meet the requirements, all the things that an organization, especially in our industries have to do. So they provided these tool sets that allow you to create the customizations outside the system and directly connect them to their delivered functionality. And then they're going to evolve and change their functionality to align with that new functionality that may have been built by a client or 10 clients in the industry that they now incorporate with enhancements into their products. So as they continue to extend their offering, they're also going to be extending the use of that. You're going to, through their client's eyes, be able to see that functionality, that technology expand and be able to incorporate that in. And they can do that more cost effectively now because they're only supporting one code line. So, they basically develop the code once, and for everyone's using the same code line. Whereas in other products, you have to go through, this customer's on this version, this customer's on this version, a separate version, or a different product line. Now they're offering just one product. You get what you get, but they can spend a lot more time delivering quality code and enhancing that one code line instead of supporting 10 or 15 different product offerings that are on different releases. So they can focus on energies and provide more quality. And that's kind of how they came up with this notion that as vendors, they needed to come up with that extension tool set that allows people to extend and bolt on applications, because they knew at some point, customers would get frustrated very quickly with the fact that, okay, you don't deliver this. I got to go find some third-party product out there to do it. Why don't you just use our tool set? So they have the natural ability to that kind of, with the tools that they use the product, to create the product with, to build this extension, now provide that to the software. I would think in the future, where things are heading, obviously we hear a lot of discussion around, automated robotics and, basically decision support and being able, AI, artificial intelligence. I think it's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah.
We were talking about, just moving to the cloud was one aspect, back 5-10 years ago, and here we are. We're there, and many of the vendors are moving there. Some are there, some are not there, and moving very quickly. Same thing with AI. It's got to be embedded in everything that we do, so that the workforces that our clients are using this technology to really, basically make it more efficient for them to complete their job responsibilities, so they can add more value to the organization. They can do the things they never get to. So I think AI and that's going to be huge in the next 5 to 10 years. And embedding that in the projects that are going to be essential for those organizations to be more efficient. And we're seeing that now in our current project, but on other clients and other situations where there's a lot more discussion around that. And we're going to see that embedded within our ERP solutions, going forward in a very rapid way.
As that sort of stabilizes, distributed journal, ledger technology like blockchain, that will probably follow into the financial systems.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's going to all be embedded in these applications, and be able to interoperate between the different applications through that technology is going to be very important to factor in to whatever's done on the ERP side. Obviously, there's more done with blockchain on the more strategic systems at this point.
Yeah.
Because that's where organizations can invest more significantly, but that's got to come back into the operational systems as well. The ones that ultimately, when you think about the different systems environments that you have within customers, you have the customer facing systems, and then you have the administrative and support systems that, yield and deliver those customer facing type of activities. And so, typically investments are greater on something where you can see a direct return on investment, or a direct return on the amount of effort you spent. And so now the administrative systems typically lag behind that. But with what organizations have seen, they've optimized that front end piece, but then the delivery side, or the way in which we account for or administrate the transactions underneath, are not as efficient. So you lose some of that return by not being efficient downstream into the administrative systems. So you need to factor in all those aspects. And so that's in order to make it a more streamlined process across the entire organization. You've got to take advantage of that new technology and embed it in everything that's done.
To be able to investing into the newer technologies, right? Do you think the only way the smaller businesses will survive is by sort of transitioning them into more sort of this modern technology? For example, in the older days, people who were doing just PeopleSoft ERP. And I've seen a lot of them sort of going out of business because they stayed just with that technology instead of becoming more fluent in other ERP products. Someone who is starting off a new company, what advice would you have for them if it's in the technology field, based on the trend that you're seeing?
Well, I think you've got to stay true to what your specialty and your skills are, first and foremost. So when you look at what we've done and how we've been able to go from product to products, because we stayed with our core strength, which is, basically supporting the ERP and HCM and supply chain applications, regardless of really the technology. We obviously specialize in, as you know, Sheree, I spent, 25 plus years working with PeopleSoft. That's my forte, and I've always done so much work there. But that doesn't stop me from being able to focus on the underlying process and being able to go between products to really extend those products. And I think the way you get there as a smaller company is doing, building up, trying not to bite off everything on the apple at once, right? Trying not to take on big things all at once, unless it's the right opportunity for you. So carving out smaller pieces, defining things at a more granular level, and allowing the organization, especially your clients, that are looking to try to do something different. Maybe they've always worked with a large consulting organization and they're comfortable with that. Well, don't come in and try to compete at that level. You come and say, well, let me prove it to you. Let me show you what I've got. Break it down into small pieces that are manageable for them. And that's going to be extremely important. Even with new technologies, don't try to do everything unless they have to move so quickly. And don't, even if you have to do everything like we're doing on our current project, we're doing a lot, but we broke it down into small pieces that the client feels more comfortable, managing through. So they can make sure that they're building trust with the people that are on the project. So we're going to do a good job. So you can't, if you said you're going to bring them, 100 people tomorrow, they may not, just like a larger firm may do. The larger firm, there's going to be a lot of weeding out through that process, a lot of unsatisfaction up front, because bringing that many people to a client that's not used there it's not been successful with that. It's going to be problematic. So breaking it down into smaller pieces, it allows you to learn more as a consultant and apply some of these new technologies, and allows the client to experience it well and be willing to invest. Right? We've invested significantly in our customers, and they invest in kind with us. They know that we're going to learn a little bit more about them, and as a result, they'll learn from us. And so they have to invest, and so do we. And so breaking that investment or that partnership relationship down into smaller pieces allows them to be more comfortable as a customer, and allows us to, do more for them and demonstrate our value faster with more return.
I think being able to differentiate as well is something that our firms have been pretty good at, over the years. We actually have these new technologies that you are describing, these chatbots, these AI, these testing tools, data conversion tools. We actually have partners that we partner with on certain opportunities to differentiate ourselves from the bigger firms. So we may not have in-house all of these tools, but we have a lot of relationships with many different firms, and we will differentiate on each proposal. And inherently, as a small company, we are differentiated because we don't look like the big firms, but giving that added boost that, hey, we can provide something that the bigger firms can't, is definitely worthwhile to look at from a client standpoint.
So that makes sense. So it's basically the skill sets that you bring, the relationship that you value, and the fact that you have all these niche methodologies and tools that you can provide. And obviously the overall knowledge, Joe, you're mentioning that you have worked in ERP PeopleSoft for 20 some years, and obviously you've worked in all the different other ERP too. Having that sort of broad background coming into a project obviously adds a lot of values, right?
Well, and I would say that when you go into these situations where you've got a large scale customer, you have to assess whether or not, if the customer is going to kind of revert back to the large firm, you've got to allow that to happen and be open-minded and flexible to figure out, well, how can I then partner with those larger firms and make it successful for both. And sometimes they want to, sometimes they don't. And you've got to find the right, again, partners that you can trust. I had a large HCM implementation years ago, and we were a smaller firm, but we had the relationship with the client, but we knew we needed expertise that was beyond what we had on our bench, or we could easily provide quickly through hiring or what have you. And so we forged a relationship with a large firm. But in that relationship, we built it as a partnership. They're used to being the prime, but in this case, they were the sub, and that was not a comfortable feeling for that organization. So we picked the right, organization, and we picked the right leaders of the organization to see through that. And the way we saw through that together was to work together. We didn't say, well, we're the prime, you're the sub. You treat them with the respect that they've earned in the marketplace, and then together you can do significant things. And that was the way we did that whole project, was together, and was very successful together. But we were able to get certain people to come with us, and it worked out extremely well for everybody.
Yeah. So smaller farms, those relationships goes a long way. It doesn't matter where you are, basically.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Being open to, some organizations, and we've heard this over the years, I'm sure you have as well. We're going to be the prime. Okay.
Right.
You'll be the prime, we'll be the sub, but recognize that we're going to be adding a tremendous amount of value to this organization and this customer. And if we have the relationship, you could still be the prime, but recognize we're doing this together and not in a prime sub type of situation, even though contractually it has to say that, right? We're not the same organization.
Yeah.
And joint ventures don't typically work in a contractual situation the way you would expect them to. Right. And some of those firms don't want to be in that situation to begin with. So you've got to acknowledge that. You can't fight that battle when you need to have the right skills and make sure the client's comfortable with the decision and direction they're heading in. So you can only go so far with trying to get them to think outside of what they're currently comfortable with. And then you have to go with them, making sure it's always, and I think the thing that makes a big difference as well, and one thing I would always encourage everyone to think about is always think about what the customer's goals are and objectives. If you keep that in mind, you can't make a bad decision, right? So if their goals are to, do a major system implementation and get some return on the investment or, improve their process. And in order to do that, you need to put together a team of people that represent multiple different organizations, and you should do that. Whatever makes the most sense for the customer to achieve their goals, that's why they pay you. And that's how you get opportunities, is by always showing and making sure that their goals and objectives are first and foremost in everything that you're doing.
Any final words before we end it?
Well, Sharif, I want to thank you for all the support and guidance and mentorship as well. It's a two-way street, and being a valuable member of our team. And I really appreciate the openness, the candor, the transparency that you've shared with us as two firms trying to work together to accomplish successful things. And so we can't, as I mentioned before, we can't do it alone. So we value very much all the things that you bring to the table for our team, because we can't do it by ourselves. In order for us to be successful, we need to rely on our partners and our team members just like you. And we really do appreciate everything you've done for us. And it's been very successful. We're looking forward to the next 10 or 20 years together as well. Okay. Or more, hopefully more.
Hopefully more.